This is me. This is my beloved wife, Sylvia. This is Sylvia's idea of sailing. This is my dream of sailing and my hope of circumnavigating the globe as a retirement project in 2029. This is Sylvia's reaction to that idea. I am on a 6-year quest to convince Sylvia that a circumnavigation is a wonderful adventure, but the clock is ticking, so join me as I search for the perfect yacht that Sylvia will love, and get all your ladies to subscribe and cheer Sylvia on in the comments. Welcome back to Naval Gazing at Camp David. This week's guest yacht is the entry level of one of the most innovative and brave new brands in the industry, the Neel 43. Today, we're going to 1. Review its specifications, pricing, and layout against 3 similar new vessels. 2. Do a full tour asking, what would Sylvia say? 3. Naval gaze, an innovation and or adjustment that might make life aboard a little easier. 4. Have a look at the used market at 3 to 5-year-old comparables. And 5. Finally, give it a Dave score and compare the result with all our previously reviewed yachts. All this fun will be sandwiched between a wine pairing from the same region as the guest yacht and a look at a favorite sample of art from the same region. Yachts, waves, ideas, wine, and art. What a civilized way to spend 30 minutes. So let's get to it. Starting high above Vancouver, Canada, we fly east across North America to the western shores of France and the home of last time's yacht, the Lagoon 42. Heading north up the coast to La Rochelle, we arrive at the Neel Trimaran yards and home of the 43. Heading south again, right between these two manufacturers, we arrive at our wine pairing this week, Chateau Les Barraillots 2020, Le Long de Palmer. Chateau Les Barraillots is the last small and independent wine producer in the village of Margaux and only one of a few Crus Artisans in the Margaux appellation. The vineyard was obtained from Palmer and Durfort in 1928 and 1933. It is situated among the highest elevations in the commune, and the soil type is permeable gravel. The modest house and winery are a quarter of a mile away and the outskirts of town, literally on the other side of the tracks. The Martin family used to raise dairy cows there, not only for the income derived from the milk, but also for the manure used in the vineyard. Although Yannick Martin, who took over from his father in 2014, still uses exclusively cow manure as fertilizer, today the cattle are gone and he has more time to concentrate on his wine production. The average vine age is 40 years, and the varietal mix is 55% Cabernet Sauvignon, 30% Merlot, and 15 Cab Franc Petit Verdot. The planting is very dense, with most sections having 10,000 plants per hectare. No chemicals are used in the vineyard, and harvesting is done manually. Fermentation are done in the stainless steel, and the wine is aged in barrels 20% to 25% new for 12 months with several rackings. This period of natural clarification is completed with the use of egg whites for fining before bottling in the spring. Roger Voss from Wine Enthusiast magazine describes Chateau Les Barraillots 2020 Le Long de Palmer as packed with rich black fruits, dark tannins, and the potential of jammy Merlot. The wine shows concentration and a young structure. Its potential is there. Wait to drink from 2025. He scores it a 92. Oh, That is lovely. You're going to enjoy that. Let's go have a look at that boat. Cheers. Okay, having a look at the beautiful Neel 43. This really is a dramatic looking vessel, not only in the water, but simply sitting at the docks. Look at that overhead view, those three beautiful hulls. Looking at it coming at you, it just looks like a weapon or a spaceship. The aft look, you can see the absolute beam on this thing, so your space is absolutely fantastic. You have that mid-helm giving you great communication even if you're at the helm. And you do have area on the rooftop for a sun pad, but generally it's used for extensive solar. Before we move into the numbers, I just want to share with you a tremendous resource that I have found called CatamaranShow.com. Andreas Norland reached out to me. He's from Switzerland and based out of France, and he and his wife have put what has to be countless hours into coding this absolutely outstanding resource for anybody looking or curious about catamarans. You can see here, all you have to do is click on models and you get every catamaran on the market, and if there's any missing, I just send them over to him, and so can you, and he'll add them in. Then you can swing into a selector that allows you, based on your criteria, to narrow down the search. Finally, you can quickly tap in 3 models and do a side-by-side comparison. Everything from layouts to all the sailing performance indicators to polars, they're all here if they're available. It's an absolutely tremendous resource, and I think together, if we sort Andreas and his wife, we can really help them build this into a resource that can help the entire community. Okay, heading into the numbers themselves, we are comparing this week the Neel 43, the Seacat 37, the Rapido 40, and the Dragonfly 40. It's a bit of a mixed bag, you can see there, but I'm trying to, it's an unusual craft. When Eric Bernil took the major leap, and it was a brave one indeed, he created something really quite unique. So you can see that the sail area, the upwind sail area on these, the Neel is up ahead at 101, followed by the Rapido 40, which I was on just last week, and it is a cool vessel at 97. Then you got the Dragonfly at 90. I was on that back in April, and it is a sexy, sexy, sexy boat. And then the Seacat, 78 square meters, and Seacat is one to watch. I think they are sort of the balance of Italy, if you will. Heading down onto the cabin top, you know, on most of these, there's not much space there on a traditional tri because you only have that slender single central hull, and you generally don't have a cabin top or a rigid bimini. However, on the Neel 43, you most certainly do, and that gives you a great space for a raised helm, massive space for solar, and if you want a sun pad, you got all the room in the world there. Seacat has dedicated all of that to solar. Heading down into the salon, you know, you see the real restrictions here on the traditional tris. Having said that, I got to say, I was on the Rapido 40, and it surprised me at the amount of space in that saloon. But it's not a Seacat 37, and it most assuredly is not a Neel 43. The 43 spreads right out to the edge of the amas. Now it's a little deceptive because a chunk of that space is taken up by the owner's cabin, but you still have huge area in there. The Dragonfly 40, it's quite small in there, but boy, it's elegant in there. The fellas at Dragonfly do wonderful woodwork and create a modern, warm environment in a very small space that is really quite innovative. Okay, heading now into the actual sleeping areas in the hulls. The only picture that really changes here is the Seacat. The Seacat has gone with an athwartship berth on the passenger side, the guest side, and then a bow cabin, and then a fore-aft berth on a full dedicated owner's. The Neel 43 has that very innovative main floor owner's bed, which gives you massive space, as you can see, compared to anybody else, as well as that full saloon. So, you know, as far as space goes, it's pretty darn good. And they have then tucked a guest room down into the Port Ama. Let's go to the numbers themselves. So heading across the top line here, we can see that the Seacat, surprise, surprise, is the most economical at 296,300 base euros. It is followed by the Neel 43 at 330, and then a bit of a jump to the Dragonfly 40 at 509, and the greatest jump to the Rapido at 595, bearing in mind the Rapido is a hair-on-fire, full-on carbon screen machine. So there are no compromises on the Rapido. Heading down into then the comparative sets, the length. As we look at this, you look across, and it's the Neel 43 is basically the longest. Actually, the Rapido's the longest at 43.11, followed by the Neel at 43, and then you've got the Dragon at 40 and the Seacat at 36. A beam then is the, well, I'm not going to compare beam because you got a cat with tries. What can you say? Looking at draft, you've got the lowest draft is the Dragonfly at a minimum draft of 0.7 meters, followed by the Rapido at 0.87, because you know, you got dagger boards and center boards on these. Then you've got the Seacat at 1.3 and the Neel at 1.51. Looking at displacement, this is the biggest surprise for me. You have the Seacat at 5 ton. That's followed by the Dragonfly at 5.6. Followed by the Neel 43 at 9. No, shit. Let's move this. So here we have a bit of a surprise. You've got the Vinyl Ester Seacat at 5 ton even. Then you have the Rapido at 5.7. Then the Dragonfly at 5.8. And then the Neel at 9. Moving to displacement. In the lead, you have a surprise here. Seacat at 5 ton with their Vinyl Ester format. Followed by Rapido at 5.7 ton, then Dragonfly at 5.8, and then we jump about 3 ton to the Neel at 9. But again, you got a lot of space in that Neel. The upwind sail we already heard with the Neel at the upper end at 1.8. Looking at capacities, again, fuel and water, the Neel leads it at 364 and 600 liters. Going now in technical numbers, the hull material, the Rapido leads the pack with an infused epoxy and carbon. It's hard to beat that one. And then I'd say Seacat and Dragonfly are the same. Neel is using polyester with a outer layer on glass and a foam core. So, you know, a material, especially for the pricing. Moving into actual statistics, looking at the sail area to displacement, which equates to power, you've got the Rapido, unsurprisingly, at 30.75 in the lead. What is a surprise is the next one is the Seacat at 29.03, followed by the Dragonfly at 28.33, and then the Neel at 23.9. As we look to displacement over length, which indicates heaviness, again, the Rapido leads the pack at 93.1, followed by the Seacat at 102.03, then the Dragonfly at 107, and the Neel at 146.49. I think there were a few surprises in there for you. Hopping on board, what would Sylvia say? Well, I'm not sure what Sylvia would say on this one. First, it's too small for what we want. Second of all, Neel goes with a very minimalist decor. It's not my favorite. It just goes too far. I think Dragonfly and Rapido have done a good job at executing on that while keeping it elegant. I feel that Neel has gone just too minimalist. Having said that, beautiful fairing on the cockpit, hard bimini, nice inlaid indirect lighting. You do have a very nice wide cockpit here. Then you've got understair access into some fantastic storage. There is no lack of storage on these things, as the winds indicated on their recent trial of a 47. The helm is simple and functional, great location. You can see everything. You can see both bows and both sugar scoops. A very comfortable double seat. And lots of rooftop for solar and or a nice sun pad if you want to put one there. But you do feel sheltered and comfortable. You've got that soft bimini there over you. It wouldn't be a bad place to be even in a bad sea. Heading down the nice steps into the saloon. Or sorry, yeah, into the cockpit. A very nice table there. I always prefer a high gloss wood, but in replacement of that, a nice high gloss PVC is not bad. You can see you've got that great access into your mechanical space. The gentleman is climbing out of there. Moving around the cabin, you can see your kitchen or your galley is almost integrated one with your seating area for dinner and your lounging and settee. You've got a reversible backrest there for your nav station. It's a great use of space. Now here is your guest suite. They put a glass separator there so it doesn't feel constrained. I think that's a really interesting way of doing it, and that would be a comfortable place to sleep. I wouldn't mind that at all. Looking forward, you've got a bow cabin there as well. You got good counter space here, and there's the window then that leads into the master cabin. But first, let's head down into this bow cabin and see what she looks like, what she feels like. There's obviously too much fared fiberglass here for my taste, but it is, it's a 43-foot small trimaran, and for a trimaran at 43 feet, this is massive space. He's done fabulous work with the windows. You can see that port there in that forward cabin. He leaves the roof hatch openable so that you don't feel constrained or constricted down there. Given the space, you never felt uncomfortably close. You have to get used to this layout because it is unconventional, but there's nothing really bad to say about it. It's a good layout. Okay, heading for a little navel gazing here. I'm going to talk about something that I saw on Fountain Peugeot 42, and I was just stunned. I saw it. It was a cover over the forward nets with embedded pillows, and when I saw it, I thought, what a silly sort of thing. And then I went to walk across to the other hull and walked on it, and I went, holy crap, the impact this makes to your comfort walking across that net is night and day. I was completely surprised. It is an easy thing to fold up and put away on a sea day. It doesn't take up much space, but you lay that out on your nets and they are really comfortable both to walk on and to lie on without a towel or anything. I thought it was an absolute tremendous innovation, and apparently it is just done by this one company that I put up there for you, and it's down in the comments here, and they are an outfitter when you're launching your Fountain Peugeot. Back into the cabins. Here we are in the master's cabin. We're looking forward here just to give you perspective, but look at the amount of windows. And again, all you'd have to do is sit up, pop your head up, and you can see if your anchor's dragging, if everything's okay. You know, again, this is a 43-foot yacht, and it's a trimaran. If you can get used to the minimalist decor and the unconventional layout, there really is, you know, get past these preconceptions. There's a lot to be said for this. And I think Eric Brunel and his team have done a tremendous job. Okay, let's look at some pre-owned comparables and see what we come up with. If you recall, I always add 50% to the base price to come up with an estimated sail away. In this case, we're looking at $491,651 USD. Our first comparable is a Fountain Peugeot 40-foot. She's an 018, so a 4-year-old boat. They're asking $514,900 versus $491,651 for a brand new Neel 43. You know, if I can wrap my head around the minimalist decor and the unconventional layout, I would really be tempted to go with the Neel 43. It looks wickedly cool. It's more comfortable at anchor. And it has a sense of more space overall. Next up, we're looking at a 019 Lagoon 42 at 619 versus just shy of 500 for a brand new Neel 43. I have to think about this one. The Lagoon 42, we looked at it last week. It's a very, very nice boat. Again, I have to wrap my mind around a much smaller form factor than I have ever imagined myself in. I might be tempted to go with the Lagoon on this, although the obvious increased performance on the Neel 43 is a real attractive point. Next up, Seawind 1260. We're back to the Seawind 1260, and it is a 2-year-old. So we're looking shy of $500,000 on the Neel versus $750,000 for a 2-year-old Seawind. Seawind's a great boat. If I was stuck at this form factor, this length, I'd probably go with the Neel. That's 50% more for the Seawind, and not sure it's there. I'll probably ignite some comments on that one. Okay, apples to apples. A 1-year-old Neel 43. They're looking $439 versus $491 for a brand new one. I skipped the weight. I get that guy's toys, whatever he's put on there. Depending on the condition, I'd probably grab the pre-owned one there. Oh, now moving into monohull heresy. This week it's a little more difficult because trimarans have different space configurations, and certainly between a Neel trimaran and the other comparable trimarans, you get a radically different space consideration, and all that is different from a catamaran. So how the hell do I compare a monohull? But I've tried anyways. I'm looking at monohulls at about the 43-foot length. That sort of splits the difference between the Neel and the traditional Dragonflies. So I think it's a comparable space. So the first one we're looking at is an Elan GT5, 43 feet. They're asking $365,000. It's a 4-year-old boat versus shy of 500 on the Neel. I'd probably go with the Elan on that one and save myself 150 grand. Looking at the Bavaria C42, 349 versus shy of 500. It's a 1-year-old boat. Youch. The problem is the Neel is so cool. I mean, it's just so cool. I could probably live a little easier on the Neel, but this would be a hard one. Finally, we're looking at a Jeannot Sun Odyssey 419 at $289. It's a 3-year-old boat versus shy of 500. If I'm on a budget, I'm with the Jeannot. Okay, the Dave score. So what do we have this week? Well, our Neel 43, simply because of size, not surprisingly, ends up at about 63 points. It's still ahead of the ORCs simply because, well, I'm not even sure it belongs ahead of the ORCs on this. Performance really isn't a consideration on these, and if it is, the ORCs would bump way up. And I may have to redo the Dave score now that I'm, almost 12 months into this, and I've learned so much from all you guys out there. My perspectives on this and what I would probably push for are now quite different than what they were when I started out. But regardless, we've got the Neel here at 63, and it is just behind the Neel 47, which is behind the Lagoon 42, which is behind the Naughty Tech 40, and honestly, that actually sounds about right. So we're looking for interior elegance. It's a 5, definitely. Again, I'm not big on their decor. Exterior elegance, about a 6. Interior comfort, a 6. And exterior comfort, a 6. Quality, a 7. I think their quality is coming up. Performance, an 8. It has decent performance. Lazy Sailor, a 7. Condo, a 5. It just doesn't feel like a condo, although it's spread out. So I think maybe that minimalist decor might have fooled me there by about a point. The Geek score, 7, it appeals to the geek. It's a cool looking boat. And value for money, I'm going to give it about a 6. So we end up at 63. Wrapping up with our Art of the Region this week, we're looking at The Entrance to the Tidal Basin in Bordeaux by André Lotte, 1912. The style is Cubism. And André Lotte was born on July 5th in 1885 in Bordeaux, where he learned wood carving at a furniture maker's studio at the age of 13. A little later, Lotte entered the École des Beaux-Arts to study sculpture. When leaving his parents' house to set up a small studio in 1905, he also wanted to focus on painting. Ever since he commenced his studies, Lotte had also practiced his passion for painting autodidactically. That he was very talented in his genre is proven by the fact that he presented his works in a first solo exhibition at Druit's in 1910, 4 years after he had moved to Paris. The artist was not only interested in the practical side of painting, but also on its theoretical foundations. Lotte took the opportunity to co-found the journal Nouvelle Revue Française, in which he publicized his critical considerations on art until 1940. In 1912, the painter joined the Section d'Or group of artists and stylistically approached Cubism. When the war broke out, Lotte was drafted to the military. This interrupted his creative work for 3 years. In 1918, Lotte realized his plan of founding a painting school in Paris. Well, that's it for this week. I do hope you have enjoyed our session, our boat, our wine, our art, and our navel gazing. We'll see you back here next week. Thanks for watching, and cheers.